you so much, everyone. So let me ask you, are you ready? Because tonight we're going to shut the door on ourselves as a people and speak to ourselves the truth, the home truth, so that we can get things right. Because my guest tonight doesn't mince words. He knows his onions and he understands the game, and he'll be giving us perspective. What exactly are we talking about? Economy under the Bola Tinubu government. Where are we? How have we fared over the last few months? So let me give you a quick picture of things. There is a not so good picture of the prices of commodities, because a lot of you who are my viewers, wherever you may be watching across this country, you might directly feel the impact of the economy and the prices of the commodities in the market. So let me give you a snapshot of what it looks like at the moment. So from May 2023, since President Bola Tinubu took power, the rice of the 50 kg of rice sells about 35,000. What does it sell now? About 65,000. That's almost an 85% increase. The price of flour, 50 kg, 28,500. That when President Tinubu got into power, right now it's about 50,000 naira. Beans, those of us who like to eat beans, is gone up by almost double, from 30,000 to 62,000. Onions, which we use virtually for soup and stew and everything, is gone from 28,000 per one bag to 60,000 naira. Palm oil, the 25 liter, is about 29,000. I mean, good one. That one is gone. The prices have dropped, which is good. 29,000 is dropped to 25,000. Cement, those who are building houses, construction and all what have you. One bag, as of when President Tinubu took office last year, it's about 4,200. Or what do we have right now? It's about 6,500 naira. But today, all of these prices that we have told you, some people are feeling the pinch and they couldn't hold it any longer. So they took to the street in Mina, in Niger State, in north central Nigeria. The protesters are protesting the rising cost of food items, and poor government efforts to arrest the situation forced them to block major roads that the government will hear their cry. Look at the number of people right there in Mina, which is just some kilometers away from the nation's capital, Abuja. They're protesting the high cost of living in the country. They've blocked major roads within the metropolis, and the protesters include women and youths who were heard chanting protest songs while security agents, including policemen, looked on. These people are really worried about the situation of things. I don't know what segment of the Nigerian population that is not feeling the pinch of the situation of the Nigerian economy under the Tinubu government's watch. But tonight, let's get a picture of what is perhaps another very, very gloomy picture of the economy, and that is the state and the value of the Naira. Tonight, I'm being joined by one of Nigeria's finest economists, Mr. Bismarck Rewane. He's the CEO and MD of Financial Derivatives Company Limited. He joins us virtually from Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Rewane, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a while. The last time I spoke with you, the prices of commodity were, at the time, although were good. But this time around, there's nothing to write home about. Let's start from the very beginning. The question you are asking in the research materials that you've shared with us tonight is Naira jinxed? Yes or no?
No, the Naira, I do not think is jinxed. Naira is a currency in transition. And you can see, between 2016, it was 490 Naira to a dollar. As of this afternoon, it's 1,460. It had dropped to 1,531 sometime last week and started finding its way back. So there are difficult days ahead. But the point is that you have to look at it in the context of a currency in transition towards its fair value. Some of the problems are structural, some of them are transient. So we have to understand it in that context. But you know that the fundamental problem with the Naira is that any country that has high inflation and spiraling inflation and cost of living crisis will always have a weak currency. And to address that, you have to look at it from a broad perspective and how to address it. It's not a one silver bullet that can solve all problems.
So you look at the depreciation value is incremental. From the year you have measured, 2016, it was about 49 Naira to the dollar. Now it's gotten, what percentage is this? It's almost 5 times or 4 times, my mathematics is right. So 1,450 to the dollar. Depreciation, you measured it about 66%. Mr. Rewane, if you look at it, the price of one currency, the way you define what the exchange rate is, and maybe our viewers can understand better from the fundamentals, the basic of what these exchange rate issue is, and maybe we can understand what exactly is the ailment of Nigerian Naira.
Let me explain it. An exchange rate is the price of one currency in terms of another. And we put it out there that, for example, in 2004, it was $1.70 that gave you £1. Today, it's about $1.27 that gives you £1. So you express it, and the world has 3 types of systems. You have the fixed exchange rate, you have the floating exchange rate, and you have the managed floating exchange rate. In the world, 38% of the currencies of the 155 countries, 38% of the currencies are what you call flexible exchange rates. And another 35% is what they call floating, and fixed exchange rates are 35%. Nigeria is one of those countries which claims it has a managed floating exchange rate, but in fact, it has a fixed exchange rate. It is this transition from what was a fixed exchange rate under the previous dispensation to what is now a managed floating rate, which is what it's trying to achieve, is what is causing these distortions. I think you have to know that. Secondly, there are all types of currencies in the world. There are 4 types in all. There are reserve currencies which you use to hold as your reserves. And those are primarily the US dollar. 75% of trade transactions are settled in the US dollar. You have the yen, you have the euro, and you have 1 or 2 other reserve currencies, even the British pound. After that, you have convertible currencies, which means that you don't have to, there's an exchange rate, there's a market in that currency every day, anywhere. You go on a flight, the air hostess, if you bring other currency, they don't bother, they just take it and they give you change in whatever currency. Then you have frontier currencies, which are currencies that are struggling to become convertible, but have not achieved that status yet. And finally, you have non-convertible currencies, which Nigeria, where you have exchange control, you have rigid, heavy restrictions, and those are the things that cause distortion and takes a currency away from its fair value. And you have speculators, arbitrageurs that take things into that consideration. But if you go to the next slide, and you see that in 2022 alone, the currency lost 24%, right?
Yeah.
And in 2023, it lost 39%. And the way exchange rates are calculated, it is you actually take the difference as a percentage of the numerator, not the denominator. So you can see it at 23% in 2022, 39% in 2023. This month alone, it had lost 21%, but it appreciated a little bit and has lost 17%. That's why the woman is holding her head there. So why is the Naira falling? Big question. 1, low supply. Supply of dollars. When you have no dollars, anytime when the supply is short, the price increases. That's simple economics. Loss of confidence in the currency as a store of value. People are now putting all their money in dollars, either in their dorm accounts or taking it out under their pillows. Money must be a store of value. People must have confidence in that currency. Increased Naira speculation and fear, because you are driven, there's what we call the fear-greed factor. Some people are greedy, some are afraid and greedy. Then restrictions and exchange control. Obviously, the more you have exchange control, the more you say you're going to pursue people, Aboki effects and all that. You are chasing shadows. Currency markets are free. And if you want to support your currency, you intervene with cash, with supply. And then finally, we have what they call negative real interest rates. You cannot have inflation at 30, 31%, and you have interest rates at 3, 4, 5%. There's a negative real return. And that, as long as there's a negative real return, there is a propensity to consume rather than to save. And if they don't save, that currency goes down the tube. Now, what is the true value of the Naira? Well, I think that's the big question that we have to ask. What exactly is the true value of the Naira? The power market, as you can see here, the power market this afternoon is at 1,461. The official rate is at 1,435. The purchasing power parity, which you divide the price of goods in Nigeria with that of in the United States, is giving us 878, which is probably the intrinsic and fundamental value of the currency. But one variable we use is what we call the hamburger index. As of this afternoon, in Burger King, a Big Mac is going for 7,700, and in the United States is going for $5.38. If you divide one by the other, you get 1,431. That tells you that the power market is a scientific and is a logical market and a rational market. All of these variables point towards the same thing, that the true value of the Naira as of today, based on speculation, fear, and fundamentals, is about the same thing at about 1431. But there's another crude way of measuring the value of the currency. You divide the total amount of reserves you have by the amount of Naira in circulation. That's a crude way. If you look at that, so we have 78 trillion Naira, which is M3. Some of it includes some foreign currency. And we are supposed to have $33 billion in reserves. If you divide one by the other, it gives you 2,363. That's the worst case scenario. That's what we call a break-up situation. If Nigeria is breaking up and we bring all our Naira out and we share it and divide the dollars we have in reserves by that, you'll get 2,363. But a better way of looking at it is that if you divide your money supply by the expected earnings in 1 year, the export earnings, it gives you 1,218. So crude analysis says the worst case scenario is 2,363 Naira to $1. Nigeria, the going concern, will give you 1,218 as $1. And all the other variables. So how do we go from where we are to where we should be? That's a big question. And it involves a number of policy steps, some of which we can discuss after your next question.
So let me take this up. There are a lot of policies, Mr. Rewane, which boils down to how these old policy, these metrics that you have analyzed will impact on the value of the Naira. Take, for example, if you listen to what the CBN governor had said, he's talked about, definitely in a calm way, is spoken about the situation in the CBN, which doesn't look like it's good. The governance structure or the corporate governance architecture looks like there was a fundamental problem. What do you think could be done immediately? Because that already is going to impact on the market, isn't it?
No, I think you must take something one after the other. You must sequence what you're trying to do. There's policy reform and there's institutional reform. The institution of the CBN has been bastardized over the years, and so we will get there. But the first thing is that the policy reform means that you must change market structure. The market structure means that we've seen a number of guidelines that came out in the last few days, which are beautiful. But the thing is that you must open up this market where the central bank participates in the auction. When you have that, then the price discovery process becomes more efficient. So the central bank announces to the public that we are going to auction $100 million or $50 million on Monday. All banks and authorized dealers should bid and publish their bid. We give it to the winner, and then everybody knows that is the price. And the winner can sell at 1% or whatever it is thereafter. The next day, an oil company comes and sells, and that becomes a benchmark price. And that way, there's a transparent process. That is market structure and market process. Then you now say, if the central bank wants to defend the Naira, it intervenes with supply. Whether it raises it here or there, it raise money. You cannot make omelette without breaking eggs. You must put supply in there. Where will the supply come from? It's very simple. The supply comes from, 1, oil companies, 2, NNPC, if they have it, 3, there's investment flows, foreign direct investment flows, portfolio flows, as well as diaspora remittances. So then what is it going to be used for? It's going to be used for important raw materials, which you call your tradables. You're going to use it to pay for some of your invisible commitments and your debt obligations. All said, you must come down to the table. Nigeria needs some new money. Nigeria needs to come to terms with its creditors. We must come clean with our creditors and say, this is the true position of things. There's nothing like that. And you must bear in mind, Nigeria is not the only country that is having a currency challenges. But the wider the gap between your interest rates and your inflation, the more severe and more vulnerable you are to shocks. You cannot have interest rates at 10, 9, 10, 7, 4, and your inflation at 30%. You lose money by going to bed. That is not consistent with the store of value concept.
All right. So let me jump in quickly. So all of these policies, because there's a need for urgent action to be able to stem the tide, the manner in which things are going. You've said things are appreciated a bit today. Well, you look at I mentioned a few policies to you, Mr. Rewane, and let's see how those have impacted the value of the Naira or the market or the economy generally. First and foremost, when this government came into power, they announced a collapse of the multiple exchange rate, which we thought that, well, a lot of experts would say that is a way to go. Recently, we heard the federal government also saying that all NNPC remittances must go through the CBN. CBN had also said, the CBN governor said, they knew some form of money. They do not produce the FX. They knew those. They want those money to come so that they'll be able to shore up what the market needs. Now, again, is the ban on the manner in which foreign currencies are being used in the country. Dollar, those who will say that they've dollarized the Nigerian economy. Are those fundamentals, all those policies, Mr. Rewane, impactful enough?
Well, let me say something. You must understand the magnitude of your problem. The magnitude of your problem determines what dose of therapy you are going to take.
It seems you have been muted. Sorry.
No, I'm not muted.
All right, go ahead, please.
The magnitude of the problem determines the therapy that you take, and then you get the prognosis as how you're going to recover. The reality is that the Nigerian currency and Nigerian external sector has been in imbalance, some of it structural, some of it transient from beginning. Now that the oil revenue, which was the main source of revenue, has been bastardized by vandalism on one hand, thievery and thievery in public sector finances. Now you are seeing that shortfall. The only way to fill that shortfall or that gap is by having confidence, investor confidence, both in Nigeria, so that people don't take their money out, and international, so people to bring money in. How do you go about this? You need to sit down with your creditors, one, to see whether you can restructure some of your debts, not default, restructure and extend the maturity profile. Have a conversation with the International Monetary Fund so that the policy support instrument program can be put in place so that there's no abuse of corporate governance and public finance policies. And then have a market that is transparent. That's all you need to do. When you do that, investors do not care. They're not worried about volatility, or they're not worried about persistent depreciation. They want some stability in the exchange rate based on normal standards. That is where you are. So if you took away subsidies and subsidies come back again, because I said it from the beginning, subsidies were never removed. They were actually reduced and then expanded again. You can see the price of diesel today is over 1,000 naira compared to price of petrol, which is supposedly deregulated at 600 naira. So that 400 naira difference tells you what the subsidy is on 1 liter. So, and hoping that something miraculous will happen does not solve the problem. That is the hope against hope. And hope is not a strategy. Now, so there's hard work to be done. First of all, understanding it. Two, coming clean with the people. You see, the commodity in the shortest supply in Nigeria today is truth. There's no truth, public, private, and in society. Dishonesty has become the norm. So come out and say the truth. This is what we have to do. And then everybody will understand and deal with the problem. Confidence is a function of integrity and truth, period.
Now, for those who are on the streets today in Minna, and those who say that the prices of commodity are going up, you've analyzed here the impact on the average citizen, the exchange rate, the medical tourism, international air flight, import duty, and all what have you. There seems to be some urgent need because when people are suffering, selling hope to them, yes, it may work, but after some time, that hope will start dwindling. If you were to tell government to do something now in the immediate, what would be the low-hanging fruit that the government needs to give to the average citizen?
First of all, you have to increase productivity, and that's not a quick win, not a quick fix. But the reality is that I think there's a discussion about the minimum wage, if it is realistic. You have to do something about wage. You have to do something about leakages in the system, and you have to improve the confidence level for investors without new money. And I'm talking about new money in big quantum. Without new money of a magnitude that can save this economy, you are going to be, you are going to face some difficulty, because once economic decay sets in, all you will see is you've been going down the drain. But that's not the case. I think that the question is now, how soon can we turn around? I think the central bank MPC meets on the 26th. I think that they will increase interest rates. The effective interest rates will also increase, and there are some policies that are money policy issues that are there. But fiscal policy that incentivize productivity, concessioning the roads, concessioning the airports, and taking government out of all of those sectors where they have no competence. They either don't have the competence, or do they have the integrity to run those businesses. Let them get out of there and use the increased revenue from subsidy reduction and the exchange rate realignment. Let them use that to do the things that they have to do.
Mr. Rewane, yeah, so now one major issue here is my fear whether those who are in government are listening to you tonight, and whether or not they have a direct link to the Nigerian people and they can feel their pain and be able to do something. If there is no urgent action, Mr. Rewane, what is the danger?
No, first and foremost, listening and understanding are two different things. So you have to listen, you have to understand, and then you have to actually begin to implement. And there's a time lag between when you recognize the problem, when you take action, and when the impact is felt. But the consequence, why I'm optimistic, is that doing nothing is now a recipe for chaos. And you can see it all out there already. So first of all, you have to understand well, you have to implement efficiently, and because the consequence of misunderstanding this thing is disorderly change. Disorderly change is not what you want. Disorderly change is a recipe for chaos. Chaos is the path to crisis. Crisis unchecked means that this place will be like Yugoslavia.
So we need an economic 911, an emergency. There needs to be a state of emergency on the economy. The president, the vice president, the coordinating minister of the economy, they need to get everyone in one room, speak truth to themselves, and get things working. I mean, from what you have analyzed, Mr. Rewane, there are most African currencies that are also under pressure. But if you are giving us, from what you analyzed tonight, the easy way out and the quick fix or the solution to wrap this up, what would those be?
Like I said at the beginning, whether you sit in one room or 2 rooms or 10 rooms, the truth is that you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to understand that there's no quick fix. Come clean to the Nigerian people, tell them this is the extent of the problem. We did it in the past during the Civil War. Chief Awolowo came back and said, this is what we have to do. We will do this, we will do that. He issued bonds and all that, and we funded and financed the Civil War. And at the end, everything was redeemed and the economy came back to where it's supposed to be. So come clean, block the leakages, look for competence, right? Competence is more important at this time than loyalty. So look for competence and ensure that you execute efficiently. There's any solution that leads to printing of more money. Printing of money is the panacea for inflation. Inflation is the beginning of the end of a currency, and the end of a currency is the beginning of political crisis. Thank you.
Mr. Rewane, thank you so much indeed. But with the indices and the outcomes of the economy, are you afraid that we may not have competencies in handling the economy? Is that what it is like?
I'm not afraid, but you see, there are different grades of competence. All right, you can use your first 11, use your second 11, use your third. If you like, use your 10th 11. If you want to win, you look for your best hands, and not only hands that are credible, and competent. Right now, it's not the time for rookies. So, but generally speaking, I'm optimistic that because we are at the end of the road, we have no choice but to do the right thing and do the right thing quickly. Thank you.
Yeah, we need to go, Mr. Rewane, but if you were to speak to Mr. President in one statement about the situation of things, what would you tell him as an expert in this field?
Say the situation is not looking good. You have to do something, do it in a hurry, and make sure you get feedback so that you are monitoring the situation as fast, because the feedback you get may be wrong, and therefore you think you are doing the right thing while you're on the wrong path. So honest and professional feedback as to what the truth is. Without the truth, only the truth can set the people free.
As I showed our viewers a snapshot of the prices of commodity in comparison before President Tinubu took over office, which can also be a judgment of how he has performed. Even with those indices, Mr. Rewane, it doesn't look like the president has done well in the area of economy, because that is the fundamentals in the pocket and the food on the table of the average citizen. And I'm hoping that himself and his team tonight will take action. Thank you so much, Mr. Rewane.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it.